What's the hardest thing about writing? Well, it's getting started. Maybe you're having a hard time coming up with a story idea, or you're stuck on where to take your story next. If you want a way into a story or a way through, I have 9 story starters to help you. This free PDF is full of story seeds and prompts to get you going. To download your 9 story starters, go to nancypanuccio.com/start. That's Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/start. As you think about your own story's opening, don't just ask, where should I begin? Ask, what promise am I making? What question am I planting? What emotional thread am I inviting the reader to follow? Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. One of the most important and intimidating decisions you'll make as a writer is how to begin your story. That opening moment sets the tone, establishes the world, and signals to your reader what kind of story they're stepping into. Here's the good news. There's no single right way to open. There are many ways to begin. The key is making a choice that's aligned with the story you're telling and the emotional experience you want your reader to have. It requires some experimentation and play. So in today's episode, I'm going to walk you through 3 powerful ways you can open your story with examples to show how each one works. Opening number 1 is with dialogue. Starting your story with characters already speaking can drop us straight into tension, conflict, or intrigue if the dialogue is compelling. Think of it like walking into a room mid-conversation. You're trying to piece together what's going on, and if the stakes feel high, you're pulled in right away. But be careful. Dialogue-only openings work best when the emotional tone is clear and we can sense enough context to stay grounded. Here are some examples. This is from Riley Sager's novel, Home Before Dark. Daddy, you need to check for ghosts. I love this opening. First, it introduces voice and character immediately. The speaker is clearly a child. The use of daddy, the directness of the sentence, and the innocent but urgent tone all point to a young voice. We don't need tags or exposition to tell us this. We hear it. It instantly sets the tone and the genre. You need to check for ghosts. Boom. Right away, we know we're in a ghost story, or at least a story with supernatural or psychological undertones. There's no need for long prologues or atmospheric buildup. This one line delivers a potential haunting, a frightened child, a parent-child relationship, and a house where something might not be right. And it does it all in 6 words. It drops us into a moment of tension with no explanation. We're not told what the house looks like or what just happened. We don't know what the child saw or heard. We just get this line, and that absence of context is what makes it compelling. It pulls us in. It creates immediate questions like, Why does the child think there are ghosts? Are there? Has something happened before? This builds a subtle sense of dread right away, and it plays with genre expectations. Readers of thrillers and horror novels know that a line like this isn't just a throwaway, it's often the beginning of something much darker. It's not someone screaming, it's not thunder cracking, it's a child making a request, and that low volume warning often hits harder. Okay, here's one more example using dialogue as an opening. This is from Lisa C's novel, Lady Tan's Circle of Women. 1,000 years in the past, 1,000 years in the future, no matter where you live or how rich or poor you are, the 4 phases of a woman's life are the same, respectful lady says. You are a little girl, so you are still in milk days. When you turn 15, you will enter hairpinning days. The way we style your hair will announce to the world that you are ready for marriage. She smiles at me. Tell me, daughter, what comes next? Okay, this line begins with a sweeping generalization claiming something unchanging across time, culture, and class. That instantly suggests we're about to explore themes of gender, tradition, expectation, particularly as they shape a woman's identity. It also raises a subtle question. Is this claim true? And will the story uphold it or challenge it? It also introduces a rite of passage structure. You are a little girl, so you are still in milk days, hairpinning days, ready for marriage. It's a cultural framework, and the character is being located within it. That gives the story a built-in sense of movement and change. The reader knows we're going to watch this narrator pass through these stages and perhaps rebel against them. It also tells us something deeply intimate about the character before she's even spoken. She's young. She's being taught what it means to be a woman, and her voice is not one in power yet. And it reveals the dynamic between characters without exposition. Respectful lady speaks with authority, but also warmth. She smiles at me. Tell me, daughter, what comes next? So the older woman isn't just lecturing, she's testing the girl's knowledge. There's a performative aspect here. The child is expected to recite or understand her role, and this suggests social pressure, perhaps even indoctrination, but it's delivered in a calm, nurturing tone, which makes it even more complex. There's love here, but there's also control. So it plants the seed of a central conflict. Will the girl conform or resist? Now, opening with dialogue is always risky. You need to build context and emotional clarity fast. For more on dialogue, listen to last week's episode 227, and check out my free worksheet, 5 Exercises to Master Dialogue, nancypanuccio.com/dialogue. I'll link both in the show notes. Okay, let's move on to opening number 2, the retrospective narrator. A retrospective narrator has already lived the events and is telling it with the benefit of hindsight. This controls the narrative tension through foreknowledge and foreshadowing. What makes this kind of opening so powerful isn't just what the narrator is recounting, but how this narrator's memory, hindsight, and emotional distance shape the telling. Here's a great example from the opening paragraph of To Kill a Mockingbird. When he was nearly 13, my brother Jem got his arm badly broken at the elbow. When it healed and Jem's fear of never being able to play football were assuaged, he was seldom self-conscious about his injury. His left arm was somewhat shorter than his right. When he stood or walked, the back of his hand was at right angles to his body, his thumb parallel to his thigh. He couldn't have cared less so long as he could pass and punt. So this gets right to the heart of how To Kill a Mockingbird is structured and what it's truly about. At first glance, Jem's broken arm seems like a small physical incident, but by the end of the novel, it becomes clear that it's deeply symbolic and structurally significant. Here's why. It frames the novel. The story is a long answer to a simple question. Scout opens the novel reflecting on her brother's injury. She goes on to say that the events leading to his injuries started much earlier with the story of Boo Radley and later the trial of Tom Robinson. So from a structural standpoint, the novel is framed around the question, how did Jem break his arm and what did that injury come to mean? It marks the climax of the story. Jem's injury doesn't happen until the very end of the book, during the climactic confrontation with Bob Ewell, who attacks Scout and Jem in a drunken rage. This is not just a random assault. It's an act of vengeance connected to the central moral conflict of the novel, the trial of Tom Robinson. By defending their father's honor and symbolically the truth, the children become targets of injustice, just as Tom Robinson was. Jem's broken arm is the physical consequence of that confrontation. So why is this opening relevant? Well, it's a narrative anchor that ties the story together. It's the physical consequence of the moral conflict. And this is important. It's something I tell my clients all the time. When your story deals with something abstract, like a moral conflict, something physical, like a broken arm, can be a symbol of the more abstract idea of your story. So it's a symbol of lost innocence and disillusionment, and it's a metaphor for moral injury. So Scout starts the novel with her brother's broken arm, but by the end, we realize the arm is just the tip of the iceberg. What's really broken is a belief in fairness, in safety, in the goodness of the legal system, and that's what the novel is ultimately about. For more on retrospective narrators, listen to episode 224. Then versus now, the key to writing a strong retrospective voice. Episode 224. I'll link in the show notes. Okay, last one, opening number 3. Start at the end. Here's an example from Toni Morrison's novel, Paradise. They shoot the white girl first, but the rest, they can take their time. No need to hurry out there. They are 17 miles from a town which has 90 miles between it and any other. Hiding places will be plentiful in the convent, but there is time, and the day has just begun. They are 9, over twice the number of the women. They are obliged to stampede or kill, and they have the paraphernalia for either requirement: rope, a palm leaf, cross, handcuffs, mace, and sunglasses, along with clean, handsome guns. So the novel starts at the climax, or at least a high point of tension. The story then moves back in time to chronicle how the women came to the convent and why the men have come to kill them. So it drops you in the middle of violence without context. They shoot the white girl first. Now, that first line is a gut punch. There's no names, no dialogue, just a brutal action delivered as if it's routine. The lack of context forces the reader into a state of alert. You're immediately asking, who is they? Who is the white girl? And why is she shot first? So it's both specific and vague, just enough information to raise tension, but not enough to settle into premature certainty. It's at once omniscient and intimate. The narrator pulls way back. This isn't a first person or close third person point of view. It's a more objective, distant narrator surveying the scene from above. That distance should feel safe, but Morrison uses it to unsettle us. The narrator knows everything, including the tools of violence the men bring. a rope, a palm leaf cross, handcuffs, mace, and sunglasses, along with clean, handsome guns. The tone is almost bureaucratic in its inventory, making it even more disturbing. It establishes setting and isolation in one sentence. They are 17 miles from a town which has 90 miles between it and any other. We know this isn't going to be a story about rescue. It's about something deeper, older, and more embedded in the land and its people. And it also flips expectations about race and power. They shoot the white girl first. It starts with the climax. This is not backstory. This is the violent culmination of events we don't yet understand. So Morrison starts with the end, then slowly pulls us backward through the social, historical, and emotional machinery that led here. It's a novel that explains itself in reverse. Here's another example of a novel that starts at the end. One True Thing by Anna Quindlen begins with the narrator, Ellen, speaking from jail. She describes the difference between jail and prison and says, jail isn't as bad as you would think. Opening with Ellen in jail plunges us into a moment of high stakes, tension, and curiosity. We don't know exactly what's happened, but we know it's serious and it demands our attention. It sets up the narrative question. We're not eased into her life slowly. We're dropped into the fallout of something big, and that urgency gives the story a compelling narrative thrust from the very first page. It raises immediate questions. Why is she in jail? What is she accused of? Is she guilty? So these questions compel us to keep going. We want to find out how a seemingly ordinary, educated woman ended up here, and that keeps us turning the pages. It gives us the ending first and then rewinds. By opening at the point of consequence, after the pivotal events have happened, Quindlen signals to the reader, this isn't just about what happened, it's about how we got here and what it meant. It tells us the story is not linear, it's layered, emotional, and morally complex. It also positions Ellen as a character who has been judged by the law, by her community, and now must tell her side. So it primes us to read everything with deeper tension. So when we read the scenes of Ellen returning home to care for her ailing mother, we're not just experiencing them in real time, we're reading them with the foreknowledge that something tragic or morally complicated will happen. So every moment is laced with dramatic irony because we know the end before we know the middle. Okay, these are just a few ways to open your story. Obviously, you can start with summary or a general statement that captures your story's theme, but these are ways to instantly drop your reader into the world of your story and create an immediate urge to know more. The common thread in all of these examples is that the opening drops us in the middle of something, in medias res, a live wire of conflict. It poses a provocative question or mystery. Curiosity is rocket fuel, and that's what a great story opening does. So here are 3 openings to try out. Number 1, start with dialogue. Number 2, start with a retrospective narrator. And number 3, start at the end. Each of these openings does more than just get the story going. They create a gravitational pull. They don't just introduce the world, they raise questions we have to answer. And that's what keeps a reader turning pages. But here's what I want to leave you with. Every one of these openings works because it makes a promise about the tone, the emotional landscape, the type of story you're telling. And the most powerful openings honor that promise all the way through. So as you think about your own story's opening, don't just ask, where should I begin? Ask, what promise am I making? What question am I planting? What emotional thread am I inviting the reader to follow? And if you're still unsure, try writing your opening 3 different ways. Test them. See which one carries the most tension, the most feeling, the most voice. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform and please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.